Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out a bass pedal because, believe it or not, I am actually a bass player first and a guitarist second. Not that you'd be able to tell that really from looking through the videos on my channel. But today we're going to be checking out a bass modulation effect that I've been using myself for quite a while now. Today we're going to be checking out the MXR M83 Bass Chorus Deluxe. So let's get into it and talk about the features to start off with, because as the Deluxe name would imply, this pedal has quite a few different features to it. So looking at the controls, along the top row you have bass and treble. Those are pretty self-explanatory. They give you the option to roll off or add in a bit more bass and treble into your sound when the pedal's active, as well as two dip switches. One of which is labelled Flanger. Again, that's fairly self-explanatory. That adds a flanger into the sound. The other is labelled X-over or crossover. So what this does is it keeps the low frequencies unmodulated if it rolls off the effect for the lower end, basically. Now I'll give you a demonstration of this later on in the video, but I've found in my use of this pedal and recording that actually it comes in really handy. I found that for sections where you still want that really solid low end root note, that it's a really useful feature, just because it can make a whole song seem completely out of tune when you've got the low end modulating as well. So that's the top row, and then the bottom row of controls are your fairly standard ones that you'd expect on any modulation. You've got your intensity, which controls the amount of modulation you've got, the rate, which is the speed of how quickly it modulates, and then you've got the width, which controls the range that the modulation covers. So that's a quick explanation of how the pedal works. I hope that makes sense, but let's get into how it sounds. So today I'm playing my American Standard Fender Jazz Bass. I'm then of course going through the Bass Chorus Deluxe and then into my Ampeg Portaflex PF500 head. That's then running into a 2-notes torpedo cap to 16, and I'm using the inbuilt bass IR in the cap to 16 today. So my clean signal sounds like this. And then when I add in the chorus, it sounds like this. So as you can hopefully hear, the rate is set really low at the moment. I've got both the treble and bass set to 12 o'clock, and what you've just heard has the rate at about 9 o'clock. Crossover and flanger are both switched off at this point. I've maxed both the intensity and width just so you can hear, because I find that this is a fairly subtle pedal. But let's see what you think. Let's keep going. So I'm going to put the rate up to about 12 o'clock now and speed that up. And that sounds something like this. And then pushing the rate up to about 3 o'clock sounds like this. I'll just hit it with a pick so you can hear what that sounds like as well. But hopefully that gives you some idea of how the chorus sounds. Now I'm going to switch the flanger on so you can hear that side of the pedal. So with the rate back at about 3 o'clock it sounds like this. If I then turn the rate up to about midday, and then turning the rate all the way up to 3 o'clock. And with a pick. So that hopefully gives you some idea of the flanger. Now let's have a look at that crossover feature that I was talking about earlier. Now I'm going to do this with it left on the flanger setting because I think that will just accentuate when the modulation is and isn't kicking in. So on the same settings as before but with the crossover disengaged, it sounds like this. And then with the crossover engaged, it sounds like this. So hopefully you can hear that on the lower notes you're just getting the dry signal coming through rather than it being modulated, which, as I said earlier, I've found to be a really useful feature, especially when it comes to recording and getting things to sit right in the mix. But there you go, so there's a quick look at the MXR M83 Bass Chorus Deluxe. Now, as you can probably tell by the fact that it's been on my bass board for quite a while, I do really like this pedal. I find that it's just the right amount of subtle to not be overpowering, but give you some cool texture for certain parts. As I mentioned earlier, for the sake of demonstrating, I have just cranked the intensity and width, so you can get it a lot more subtle than what you've heard today as well. But that's it for today. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what your go-to chorus pedal for bass is. And let me know whether you would like to see a bit more bass content on this channel, because as I mentioned, I am really a bass player more than a guitarist. But that's it from me, so all that's left to say is, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.